Just a second, so I'll let them know. Okay, let's go.
Sneha, you go ahead.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Sneha Dubey, and I welcome you all to this virtual event on solar energy, co-hosted by the Permanent Mission of India and the Delegation of European Union to the UN. I now invite Permanent Representative of India, Ambassador T.S. Tirumurthy, to present the welcome address. The floor is yours, sir.
Excellencies and friends, let me begin by welcoming everyone for today's event on solar energy, which India is co-hosting with the EU delegation to the UN. It is my pleasure to have here my co-host, the head of the EU delegation, Ambassador Olof Skog. A very special thanks to Ambassador Nicolas de Rivière, Permanent Representative of France, and Ambassador Ilana Said, Permanent Representative of Palau, for joining us in person at the Indian mission. Apart from my colleagues here today, we have Director General of the International Solar Alliance, Dr. Ajay Mathur, and CEO and Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for All and Co-Chair of UN Energy, Ms. Damilola Ogunbui. India has a clear vision that sustainable growth is possible only through sustainable energy sources. As announced at COP26 in Glasgow by Prime Minister Modi, we are moving towards the target of non-fossil energy capacity of 500 gigawatts. The share of renewable energy in the energy mix stands considerably enhanced to about 40%. We are also working on becoming a green hydrogen hub. India has overachieved the 2022 targets for renewable energy, and this is in large part thanks to our effective focus on solar energy. In less than 8 years, solar energy capacity has increased from 2.6 gigawatts to more than 46 gigawatts. Solar park scheme has doubled from 20 gigawatts to 40 gigawatts. This has contributed in taking India to the 4th position globally for overall installed renewable energy capacity. In this year's budget, around $2.5 billion has been announced just for high efficiency solar module manufacturing. There is also a huge market for solar stoves, which is necessary for India's clean cooking movement. Our startups have been instrumental in carrying forward our solar ambitions. A successful experiment was done recently in the Indian state of Gujarat with the installation of canal top solar. Similar experiments are now being conducted elsewhere in the country. Architects and builders are also urged to work on the concept of solar tree in the construction of houses that would cater to 10 to 20% of the household's electricity needs. Efforts have also been made to make solar power more accessible. Solar power tariff has been reduced by more than 75% using plug and play model, and a record low solar tariff of less than 3 cents per unit has been achieved. However, challenges do remain. Along with energy production, energy storage and energy conservation are also important for sustainability, and we need to work together to find solutions to these issues. The International Solar Alliance was conceived as a joint effort by India and France. Last year in December, a resolution conferring observer status to the International Solar Alliance was adopted at the UN, and we once again thank all the member states. At COP26 in Glasgow, Prime Minister of India and the United Kingdom launched the Transnational Grid Initiative, One Sun, One World, One Grid. This is the first international network of global interconnected solar power grid, which will combine large-scale solar power stations, wind farms and grids with rooftop solar and community grids to ensure a reliable, resilient and affordable supply of clean energy for all. Friends, this is indeed a critical year for solar energy, and we should do whatever we can to make this happen. I once again thank you all for joining us and look forward to the presentations today. I thank you.
Thank you, sir. I would like to now request the head of the EU delegation, Ambassador Olof Skog, to say a few words. Over to you, Excellency.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator. Good morning to everyone from New York, and I just want to say that I'm really proud to be here on the panel together with Palau, France, and our co-host, my dear friend Tiru from India. I will speak more later about the EU strategy on solar energy. Just to say now that I'm delighted that the EU and India are cooperating on this issue, but on so many other issues. When size of the India, the population size of India, the economy of India and the EU comes together, we can really show the way for the rest of the world, not least on sustainable and innovative ways of getting our energy sources covered. So with that, again, pleased to be here. Looking forward to come back later on to talk about what I believe is one of the most interesting areas for our future, is to find a truly sustainable way of sourcing our energy. And I cannot think of a more democratic form of energy than solar energy. And I'll come back to that later. So thank you again, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Ambassador, for your kind remarks. So we now have a CEO and Special Representative of the UN Secretary General for Sustainable Energy for All and Co-Chair of UN Energy, Ms. Damilola Ogunbi, joining us through a video message.
Your Excellencies, distinguished colleagues and friends, it is my pleasure to be speaking with you today. I'd like to thank His Excellency, the Ambassador from the Permanent Mission of India to the United Nations, and His Excellency, the Ambassador and the Head of the European Commission delegation to the United Nations for inviting me to speak at this high-level event. In 2021, over 160 gigawatts of solar power was added globally. This was a record high. Despite the ongoing challenges of COVID-19, solar power emerged as a means to address various development challenges, including productive uses like irrigation and cold chains for vaccine distribution in rural areas, as well as solar-based technology to improve energy access at the household level. The International Solar Alliance has made significant strides in advancing cooperation on solar power through reforms on procurement practices, on energy financing through de-risking efforts, on mainstreaming distributed solar applications across the global south. The ISA's work continues to be critical and commendable. We are glad to be working with Dr. Mator and his team to advance these important priorities. The commitments put forward by the European Union Solar Strategy strongly echoes the commitments that the UN Energy, that I co-chair, has put forward. This commitment, cutting across the UN systems partners, is aimed at making rapid advances on Sustainable Development Goal 7 through the Energy Compact Network, specifically to halve energy poverty by 2025 by increasing energy access to 500 million people and clean cooking access to 1 billion people. India is also a trusted supporter and partner for our work on the Energy Compact, with ambitious renewable targets and a strong commitment to a just and inclusive energy transition. Critical to making progress on solar power is mobilizing finance and partnerships that are effective. Part of the UN Energy Pledge is a commitment to doubling energy investment globally from 2021 levels and raising absolute energy access investment to over $40 billion a year. I welcome the leadership on display here today from the EU, France, India, and Palau. And I thank each of you for your commitment to our clean energy future. As we look ahead to COP27, Sustainable Energy for All and the UN Energy, look forward to deepening our relationship with you. Thank you.
We thank SRSG for her valuable message. And I now invite Permanent Representative of France, Ambassador Nicolas de Rivière, to speak on engagement of France for renewables, in particular solar energy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Dear all, I would like first to thank warmly the Indian Permanent Mission and my friend Thiru, and the European Union delegation in New York and my friend Olaf for the organization of this very important and timely event. I'm pleased to participate on this event on renewable energies as France co-chairs the International Solar Alliance. France, as custodian of the Paris Agreement, encourages pushing up renewables to reach the Paris Agreement climate target. The momentum for solar energy is accelerating. Solar energy is now the most developed source of energy. COP27, under Egyptian presidency, will give us a unique opportunity to reaffirm our ambition and to accelerate the necessary transition. The role of solar energy and of the International Solar Alliance is achieving this transition will be key. Let's not forget that its recent success is based on strong political commitments and favorable regulatory frameworks, which have made solar energy a very competitive source of energy. France is particularly supportive of two ICA priorities. Number one, capacity building via the Star Sea project. And number two, access to finance via the Sustainable Renewables Risks Mitigation Initiatives. In June last year, France announced a contribution of €1 million to Star C, and we call on others to support our efforts through financing or expertise sharing. This first phase of this project will focus this year on Africa and SIDS of the Pacific. In Africa, for instance, the French Development Agency, AFD, is already working with ISA on capacity building through the African Network of Centers of Excellence in Electricity, a project co-financed by AFD and African Development Bank under the leadership of the African Power Utilities Association. France welcomes the new solar strategy presented last month by the European Union, which demonstrates EU commitment to achieve its emissions target by 2030. We also welcome Palao's commitment to 100% of renewable energy by 2032. The latest scientific data as put out by the latest IPCC report and current crisis is a reminder of the necessity to redirect our subsidies towards a just energy transition, including by supporting developing and emerging economies access the adequate financing they need for solar development. Only from cooperation will come innovative solutions that will be deployed on a large scale tomorrow. We call on the states that have joined the International Solar Alliance to support our efforts and mobilize their expertise in solar energy to strengthen our ambition. France is more committed than ever, alongside India and its partners, to support the acceleration of a just energy transition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador, for sharing that with us. It is my pleasure now to announce that we have with us today the Director General of International Solar Alliance, Dr. Ajay Mathur, who will update us on the work of the ISA. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I want to thank all of you for putting together this key presentation, this key gathering of people who can help in mobilizing solar energy across the world. I especially thank Ambassador Tirumurti, a friend of many years, a friend and a conspirator of many years, who has helped us move in the direction of making solar the energy of choice. As we move towards this goal, I think we've been helped greatly. And Tiru, if you allow, I would try to put up a screen which essentially captures what I wanted to say. Okay, so what I wanted to share with you is that in the past 10 years, there has been a huge movement in the efficiency and therefore the costs of photovoltaics. It happened with wind as well. In the graph on the left, the line that you see on top is for wind, and the lower one is for utility scale solar PV. What has happened over the past 10 years is that we have seen a huge decline in prices. Now, this happened because of a number of things, but we've also seen over the past 1 year, because of the constraints on the supply of various goods, the prices have actually increased. The prices of PV power have actually increased as well. In March this year, the price of PV grade polysilicon had more than quadrupled from what it was a year ago. Steel, which is the main source of material for this support, had increased by 50%. Copper by 70%. Aluminum doubled. Freight costs, particularly across oceans, rose almost 5-fold. But while historically we are seeing with this increase in PV and in wind costs, power prices from fossil fuels are increasing even faster. The rates of increase, and in some countries, and many of you will recognize this, the wholesale power prices have increased more than 6-fold on an average compared with the mean values from 2016 to 2020. This implies that we are in, at least in the short term, and short term to me means 2022 and 2023, when we have PV prices which are higher than they have been in the past. Despite that, already in many geographies, solar provides the cheapest electricity from any source, including in a large number of countries compared to gas-based electricity. This is important because what it implies is that in increasing number of jurisdictions, solar electricity is now the cheapest form of electricity when the sun is shining. I'll leave parenthetically that therefore there is a question much more for developing countries than for developed countries about what do we do at night when you've got increasing demand. Because when you've got increasing demand, the challenge is, do you put up solar capacity for the day and fossil fuel capacity for the night? Clearly that doesn't make sense. But having a very expensive source of night-based electricity is also difficult. And therefore, it is important for us to meet the challenge of the storage costs upfront. On the solar side, we have seen huge efficiencies occur. The average conversion efficiency of a single solar PV panel has increased from 15% to well over 20%. In the lab, it became 25% in 1999 and is now at about 26.7% or so. By the way, the theoretical limit is about 29%. But what is happening in the world is that there are all kinds of new combinations that are happening. We are seeing what are known as heterojunction cells. So this is more than one cells stacked one on top of the other, 6 sometimes together. There are bifacial cells so that the electricity or the light can hit on both sides of the panel. With all of these kinds of advances, and in the lab, we now have efficiencies of these heterojunction cells with concentrators hitting approximately 47%. Now, what comes into the market obviously depends on what is the kind of things that make economic sense. And therefore, one of the things that we watch with great interest is the conversion of these high efficiencies into commercially viable solutions. And this is an area where we are seeing a huge amount of effort in the US, in the EU, in Australia, across the world. This effort is happening. Now, as we look at this, what we are seeing is that the deployment for solar is strongly positive in many geographies. We see that renewable capacity will increase by about 8% in 2022 compared to the last year. As Ms. Damilola Ogunbi mentioned, we crossed something of the order of, I think she said $200 billion last year. That brought in about 180 gigawatts of solar capacity. This year, we expect to see the commissioning of somewhere between 190 and 200 gigawatts of capacity. Another record-breaking year. Mostly this is occurring in utility-based projects, though smaller mini grid projects, smaller productive projects like solar for healthcare or solar pumps also contribute to this total. We are seeing that the largest amount of capacity addition occurred in China last year, with PV mega projects being based in Xinjiang and Inner Mongolia provinces, which are now known as mega hubs, with about 100 gigawatts starting development at the beginning of 2022. In the European Union, solar PV growth has been triggered by faster policy implementation in various countries: Germany, Netherlands, Poland, Italy, and of course, one of ISA's founder countries, France. We've also seen growth in rooftop solar. In Vietnam and in Brazil, we are seeing huge increases, particularly because of generous net metering schemes, which allow people with rooftop to sell to the grid and be paid for the difference between what they supply to the grid and what they buy from the grid.
I apologize. I apologize to intervene, sir, but just that I think we're hearing from some of our colleagues that we're not seeing the slides move. If the slides could kindly be adjusted, that would be great.
Which slide?
So we're only seeing the cover slide right now, sir.
Thank you. Give me a moment. Give me a moment.
Thank you, sir.
Do you see them moving? No?
No.
Not yet, sir.
Well, let me move this one. Okay, can you see this move?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are seeing the cursor move on your screen, sir. Yes, now it's good.
So what I'm going to do is I am going to cheat and not show the slide view, but the view as you see right now. So this was the one where I had discussed the rising efficiencies and the declining prices of solar. And the next one is where I had spoken of the growth across various geographies and the fact that we will see between 190 and 200 gigawatts of solar come in this particular year. So what we are looking at, however, is that this growth is a constrained growth. Globally, solar energy we've got a far greater potential. It is to meet this potential, which we currently see as being constrained by various reasons, that the Solar Alliance was created by India and France at COP20. What are these challenges? We see, in particular, the fact that in many geographies, we don't have the kind of data that we need, that leaders need in order to make decisions. We do have a general idea, but how does this apply to my country is often something that is not addressed. The second is, okay, this is all great, but where are the people who will implement it? Capacity building. The third is, okay, I have the people, I know it is great, but will investments come in? I'll give you a number. Last year, as Ms. Damilola Ogimbi mentioned, something like $200 billion came into solar investments across the world. But 74.6% of it came into the OECD countries and China. In all of Africa, the investment that came in was 4.7%, despite the fact that that is where the largest energy growth is occurring. Why is this? We see this as particularly the fact that there is a lack of risk. Because investors, and we've spoken to about 180 investors feel that they will not get their money back. Investors feel that they will there be evacuation of the electricity that I generate. investors feel projects are too small. All of these require enabling policies and regulations. I, for one, am a person who believes that projects
So we seem to
Hello.
have, yes, so we seem to have lost visual, but I think we hear you.
Okay, so, so as far as the Solar Alliance is concerned, our goal is, number one, to provide the information for advocacy. Every year we bring out a report called Ease of Doing Solar, which lists where countries are as far as attracting solar investment is concerned. From this year onwards, we'll be bringing out an annual progress report looking at what are the kinds of advances that have occurred in solar technology, in solar investments, and in solar markets. And this would then be converted into the kinds of advantages that you see at the level of countries themselves. The second thing that we are looking at is capacity building, not just of the people who will design and implement the solar projects, but bankers who would look at the solar projects that are put up for financing, particularly for debt financing in their own country banks, at policymakers, and the grid regulators who looking at how we can bring in variable sources of energy. We are also creating a blended finance. Okay, I hope you can see my slides now.
We can see your slides and we can see you, sir, and we can hear you very clearly.
Okay. We're also looking at creating a blended finance facility. And this blended finance facility, the great particularity of it is the first one would be based in Africa, the second one in the Asia Pacific, and the third one for Latin America. And the goal in all of these is to have a bucket of resources, which we call as risk capital. This can be used to create the risk mitigation fund, whether it is a payment guarantee mechanism or a first loss mechanism, which gives investors the confidence to come into the country. As these things happen, and as we work with the small island states and the least developed countries in actually putting up solar projects, and there are 27 countries where we are putting up solar projects, they get the comfort and the confidence that it would lead to jobs, it would lead to people getting electricity who never had it, it would lead to lower pollution, and it would lead to lower imports, particularly of diesel. All of these benefits then provide the governments with the rationale, with the reasoning to bring in the kinds of policy interventions which help in pulling in more capital into the country. As we end, I think it is important to note that 2022 is a very important year. We need to accelerate our responses to these challenges. We've already missed the train to manage avoidable challenges. Now we need to avoid unmanageable changes. This is the goal that we have for ourselves. And as we look to the future, we are believing that with our interventions through the data analytics and advocacy, through capacity building, and through the programmatic and project support, including the financial blended finance facility, we will be able to help countries so that we have access to everybody. And today, solar mini grids provides the least cost input for rural energy access. We would have helped countries to mobilize about $1 trillion by 2030 towards solar investments. And we would have unleashed an energy transition of about 1,000 gigawatts in our member countries and in our developing country member countries of about 1,000 gigawatts. Together, these three towards 1,000 goals, help the world move towards solar as the energy source of choice. I thank you for your attention, and I am here to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for those comprehensive insights. Please allow me now to invite Ambassador Skog again for sharing his views on the EU solar strategy. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm excited to be also in a listening mode with people who really know what they're talking about, which isn't always the case when UN ambassadors speak, and especially the case with me right now. But I've picked up very attentively the tremendous potential that we've heard about the solar energy presents, but also the challenges on moving forward. And I'd like to share with you some fundamentals of the EU solar energy strategy. We have the ambition to become climate neutral and climate resilient by 2050. This is the EU goal of its member states. The EU has so far met our climate targets in the past, and we have to meet them in the future. And I know that many will ask, well, what about the temporary adjustments that have been forced in the last few days and been communicated and going back to coal, etc. But the President of the European Commission just the other day reconfirmed that the goal is clear and that has not been adjusted. An important interim target on our way to 2050 is to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by at least 55% by 2030. Energy efficiency and renewable energy are part of what we call the European Green Deal. On renewable energy, the topic of today, the EU has reached our target 2020, which was to have 20% of renewables. We actually achieved 22%. For 2030, the European Commission proposed a target of 40%. We will reach a part of it through solar energy. The free and unlimited energy of the sun will reduce our dependence on fossil fuels across all sectors of our economy. Now, the war in Ukraine makes it necessary for us to end our dependence on Russian fossil fuels even quicker. This has, I think, for many years been a political and climate-wise an unhealthy dependency that we are now trying to move out of. Therefore, in May, the European Commission has proposed an ambitious Repower EU plan to rapidly reduce dependence on Russian fossil fuels and to fast forward our green transition. Massive rapid deployment of renewable energy is at the core of this Repower EU plan. Indeed, the Commission now proposes to further increase our 2030 renewable target to 45%, that is from 40%. A new EU solar energy strategy is part of that measure. And as you are probably aware, I actually wasn't until this morning, solar energy comes mainly in two forms: the photovoltaic, the PV technology that we heard about, which converts sunlight into electricity, and the solar thermal technology that harnesses its heat. Already now, solar PV is one of the cheapest sources of electricity. The more the fossil fuel prices raise, of course, the bigger the cost advantage of renewables. With our new strategy, we want to get from 136 gigawatt installed PVs in the EU in 2020 to 320 gigawatts in 2025 and almost 600 gigawatts by 2030. And how can we do this? Well, the solar strategy foresees four key initiatives. Firstly, promoting quick and massive PV deployment on buildings via a European solar rooftops initiative. Secondly, by making permitting procedures for solar installations shorter and simpler. Thirdly, by ensuring the availability of an abundant and skilled workforce for producing and deploying solar energy across the EU. And fourthly, by launching a European Solar PV Industry Alliance for a resilient industrial value chain, especially in the PV manufacturing sector. All of these are trying to overcome some of the hurdles that we just heard from the DG just now. I will not go into details because I wouldn't be able to, but just a few points that I want to raise, namely on job creation and citizens' participation. On the jobs aspect, already 2020, the EU solar PV sector employed 357,000 people, directly or indirectly. Many more will be needed if we want to reach our solar targets. And already now we lack skilled workers. The solar sector will therefore be a strong driver for upskilling and reskilling workers, also in related sectors such as heat pumps, grid upgrading, and battery storage. On citizens' participation, solar projects are often small-scale and decentralized, so they enable citizens to get active and get together. Local energy communities are a good way to do that. The full potential of solar energy can only be exploited if citizens and communities have incentives to become prosumers. Innovative financing models should enable access to solar energy also for the energy poor and the vulnerable. Turning to the international aspects, which I think are very important here, international cooperation will greatly help us to implement the new EU solar strategy and to reach our wider energy and climate targets. We currently have a situation where one country, China, largely dominates the solar energy manufacturing market, with the EU being number 2 behind China in terms of installed capacity. While in general we applaud China's commitments, of course, to go to renewable and solar energy, clearly a case can be made for broadening the market for the benefit of the consumers. With India, we have technical cooperation and business-to-business interactions under the EU-India Clean Energy and Climate Partnership. We discuss a variety of issues there, from smart grids and storage to clean energy financing. We look forward to India launching its first tender for offshore wind, a topic on which we have worked together for many years. We also look forward to developing cooperation on renewable hydrogen as we move forward. But there is further potential, for example, on learning from each other how to finance, promote and deploy solar energy. And as something that the European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen raised when she was in April last in New Delhi. On the International Solar Alliance, the EU is a strong supporter, and some of our member states are, of course, alliance members, France here to my left. On SIDS, they are, of course, at the front line of climate change. We support their fast switch to renewable energy, as Palau envisaged to do very early on. Finally, colleagues, the Global Gateway is a new European strategy to boost smart, clean and secure links in digital, energy and transport sectors, and to strengthen health, education and research system across the world. Between 2021 and 2027, Team Europe, and with that we mean the EU institutions and our EU member states, will mobilize up to 300 billion euros of investments. Climate and energy will be among the funding priorities. The Green Climate Fund, of course, is the largest dedicated climate fund, and the EU member states provide nearly half of that budget. Innovative solar projects, again, in developing countries are fundable under the GCF. Last but not least, I want to mention the important role of the European Investment Bank. The bank has been lending over 6 billion euros to the solar sector in the last 5 years, and I want to say that this is not only reserved for European market. 1.6 billion out of these 6 have gone outside the Union, and that trajectory continues. I thank you very much, Madam Moderator.
Thank you, Ambassador. And today for our final presentation, we have the pleasure of inviting Ambassador Ilana Said with us here today, the permanent representative of Palau, to give us the SIDS perspective on renewable energy. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Madhuri. Thank you so much to you and Olaf for convening this very important meeting. It's also a pleasure to be with my brother Nicolas from France. You know, Palau is a small island developing state. You know, we constantly say that mitigation is really important because it is an existential crisis for us. Just as a way of background, when I was growing up, we did not have any typhoons. We are outside the typhoon belt. We're 7 degrees from the equator. But lately, we've gotten storms almost every single year. The last typhoon to hit Palau destroyed 20% of our homes. Our aquaculture facilities and our farms are really threatening our food security. So, you know, we're constantly saying that, you know, climate's getting, you know, more aggressive in terms of damage, not only in frequency, but in power every single year. And, a couple of years ago, I was at the UN in 2005, and we kind of said these same things. I think today we can't really deny that climate is impacting everybody, not just small island developing states. There was an article in the New York Times that was saying because of the heat waves in India, the birds were falling out of the sky and children can't go to school because it's too hot in the classrooms. There's floods in the EU as well. So climate mitigation and the transition to renewable is incredibly important, I think, for all of us. To that end, Palau's President Surang Whips Jr. has announced one of the most ambitious renewable energy targets to switch over to 100% renewable by 2032. We felt that this was very important because, one, Palau is a guardian of very fragile ecosystems. It's one of the most biodiverse marine environments in the world. It's the intersection of 3 marine currents. So we have, very biodiverse marine environment, and they're very fragile. Coral reefs are incredibly fragile, and if we overshoot the 1.5 degree, the scientists are telling us it's very, very hard, if not impossible, for those ecosystems to exist. The second reason that we have been very ambitious is it's actually very, very expensive to power energy in a small island developing states. We have to ship diesel fuel from sometimes the Middle East. So just a way of context, we produce energy right now because of the Ukraine crisis up to 40 cents per kilowatt hour. I was recently in Copenhagen, and the minister of the UAE said they produce solar energy at 1.34 cents per kilowatt hour. So you can say the price differential is huge, from 40 cents to 1.35 cents. So it's not only, an important thing for, conserving what we consider to be treasures of the world, but it's also an economic need for us as small island developing states. In Palau, we've actually done quite a few feasibility studies. We're 7 degrees from the equator, so solar is incredibly viable for us. We've done the luminosity studies. We've done, various things that tell us that solar is the way to go. We don't have any wind, unfortunately. We're in the doldrums. To transition the entire country to 100% solar with battery storage would cost $180 million. That's how small our islands are, and that's how small of a target. For large countries like yourself, that probably seems like a blip in your budget, but that's how much it would cost for us to transition there. Then we run into the hurdles, which our colleague from the ISA mentioned. SIDS have very, very large hurdles in accessing climate finance. Palau has only gotten 1 climate finance grant from the GCF, for example. It took us 4 years in order to get from concept note to approval, and it hasn't had the distribution yet. So if we apply for a grant or climate finance today, in 4 years, the technology is no longer viable. So we really focus on trying to fix that broken part of the climate finance system, so SIDS and other developing countries can have access to resources that will help them develop. I think our colleague from the ISA also mentioned, private capital is very hard for us to access because for the most part it's too small. These deal sizes are just too small for investment banks and things of that sort. So we haven't had too much luck there yet. The second issue is also we have no economies of scale because our population is very small. So we hope to partner with larger countries like India and France and the EU and the ISA so that maybe we can piggyback on the purchase orders for larger countries, because one thing that we've gone through is when we reach out to solar battery storage providers, they're constantly telling us that our order is too small, so they're not interested. So that's also one of the kinks that we kind of need to work out in the system. I think that's kind of about all I have for now. We have the political will, we have the economic need, and we just really need to have the right partnerships and try to go in the right direction. I think we, for all of us, it would be a really big win to see a country in a small island developing state that's really at the forefront of climate change to say, hey, we despite our distance, despite our size, despite the fact that we're a developing country, we see this as an important need for all of us to move forward. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Ambassador. We would now open the floor for questions and interventions from the participants today. I request you to be brief. We are running a little short on time, but it will be very nice to hear what you have to say and to also ask questions so that our presenters here could respond. Kindly mention who the question is directed to. You could also write it down in the chat box and we will have our experts get back to you. We have already received some expressions of interest, so I would be calling out to them first. And this would be in the order in which we have received the request. So first up, we have the permanent representative of Malawi, Agnes Chimbiri Molande. Please.
Thank you so much, moderator. And let me begin by commending the permanent mission of India, my brother there, and the EU delegation for organizing this important event. And it is my belief that as participants, each one of us has benefited in one way or another. And really, the information we've heard is very rich and very useful. We may all be aware that the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change report has continuously highlighted that human activities are playing a greater role in carbon emissions, which are causing the world's temperatures to rise, thereby leading to climate change challenges, including erratic rains, cyclones, droughts, etc. For least developed countries like Malawi and other vulnerable countries in Africa, when these threats hit us, there's a huge drawback to our economies since they are heavily dependent on rain-fed agriculture. So the world needs to come together as urgently as possible to find innovative ways of ensuring that gas emissions are reduced or even halted if we are to save our planet. Every household must have access to clean energy. And solar energy, as we have heard from the presenters today, is the cheapest source of energy. This will need to be promoted both at all levels, at global level, so that we are able to mobilize the financiers, the private sector, and the capital, the needed capital that we have heard we need, even the technical know-how, technical knowledge, and even the data that we need. Regional level, I think, to me, we need to mobilize ourselves in an integrated manner to have a program at regional levels whereby we can easily access the huge amounts of money that we need. And also critically, at the local levels, as the EU ambassador has mentioned, where the users are. We need the participants of the citizens so that they are able to use the solar energy. And therefore, I would like to urge for a bigger program, maybe at regional level, where we can work together and mobilize the energy sources that can really save our population from problems of energy. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Madam Ambassador. We will now take a question or a comment actually from Mr. Wilfred Bia. I see that he's here from the International Renewable Energy Agency. Over to you, please.
Thank you very much, Madam, and I would like to thank the permanent mission of India and the EU delegation for this meeting. As you know, IRENA has an international organization with close to global membership that supports countries in the energy transition or to the transition to a sustainable energy future based on renewables, serve as a principal platform for international cooperation, a center of excellence and a repository of policy, technology, resource, and financial knowledge on renewable energy. According to the latest IRENA data, at the end of 2021, solar energy already continued to lead capacity expansion with an increase of 133 gigabytes, which is 19% more in comparison to the previous year. At the same time, off-grid solar expanded by 312 megawatt to reach 4.9 gigawatt. The expansion is mostly due to the dramatic fall of solar PV costs, which accounted to around 85% in the past decade. In This is just a beginning. According to IRENA 1.5 scenario, installed capacity of solar PV should reach 5,200 gigabyte by 2030, more than 7 times than that of 2020. IRENA has been supporting ISA since its inception, which has culminated to the signature of agreements between both organizations in 2018. We are working now on the operationalization of that agreement in areas that will include, among others, project facilitation support, SEED's Lighthouse Initiative, Solar City Simulator. And these are the areas where you have been supporting SEED in particular. Just allow me to mention one aspect, which is financing, because of time. As many participants have mentioned, financing of renewables remains key. In that regard, IRENA has launched at COP26 in Glasgow, the Energy Transition Acceleration Financing Platform, which we call ETAF. And ETAF has already mobilized 400 million with the aim to mobilize approximately $1 billion US. And this is to support the energy transition by 2030. Many other actors are joining the platform, and we believe that this is a powerful tool to help developing countries and the world in general to achieve the energy transition goal. The permanent observer mission of IRENA stands ready to keep this conversation with you going on, and we are available for any comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We also have a request from Morocco. So maybe we can take that comment or query, and then maybe the responders could respond. Please, Morocco.
Thank you very much, Madam Moderator, and Morocco welcomes and congratulates India for taking the lead on this very important event dedicated to solar energy. And we also thank the European Union and all the co-organizers for joining efforts in promoting this very encouraging milestone of energy transition to solar. As you may know, and probably do know, the Kingdom of Morocco is convinced and is engaged in this strong uptake of renewable energy and solar energy that we believe is actually gaining ground internationally. Although, as one of the distinguished speakers said today, solar energy deployments continues to be held back by significant hurdles in most developing countries, and those are the hurdles that we need to address, and finance is absolutely one of them. In this regard, my country has been pioneering solar energy production and has invested for over 2 decades in the world's largest concentrated solar power plant in Ouarzazate Noor. Our legislative framework has also adapted to this strategic vision to promote renewable energies and to facilitate related foreign direct investments into the country. Our new NDC now aims to reach 52% of our national production of electricity coming from clean sources by 2030. And so all these efforts, of course, and many more that we need to learn from India, from the European Union, and many other partners of Africa, deserve to be highlighted in the next COP27 that will take place in Egypt. Morocco has hosted the COP, the previous COP that took place in Marrakesh in Africa in 2016. And therefore, we would like to remind once again that our continent, Africa, is unfairly enduring the impact of climate change, although it is contributing the least to it. The first African Action Summit organized at COP22 on the initiative of His Majesty King Mohammed VI triggered an unprecedented dynamic among African leaders. And today we encourage all the partners of Africa, including India, including the European Union, to capitalize on what has been achieved so far by Africa, for Africa, without losing mind of the Sahel region, of the Congo Basin, of the small island states, because their energy poverty is heavily concentrated and we need to address it as we move forward. Thank you again for this opportunity and all the support from Morocco.
Thank you so much, Morocco, for your comments. And I now have the Permanent Mission of Guyana, who had also requested the floor. I see Royston Alkins. Would you like to take the floor? While we are waiting for that, I think we do have a request. Also, maybe I will request our DG, International Solar Alliance, to respond to any of the comments that we have made, and then we can circle back to any other queries that may be coming in. Sir, you have the floor if you would like to maybe respond or come back to any of the comments that have been made so far.
Thanks very much. Very quickly. Malawi, I think we have a great relationship with. We are looking towards a new set of regulatory interventions which enable solar mini-grids. This enhances access to electricity in rural areas, and most importantly, does it in a clean manner. This is work that we look forward to, and Madam, I look forward to your personal support as well in accelerating this process. We are delighted to work with IRENA. As Mr. Beer mentioned, there is a number of areas in which we have agreed to work together. We believe that together we can achieve the goal of moving to clean energy much faster. From Morocco, we have a great deal to learn. The way they have implemented the solar thermal projects is, I think, a great experience on how we can move to this experience to other countries. Yes, we will be very happy to bring in experience from other countries into Morocco as well. And finally, the last point that I'd like to make is that as we have moved ahead, what we have seen is a large number of projects which have been installed in a number of countries, and I was looking forward to the inauguration of the first such project in Guyana, but unfortunately the supply chain disruptions that have occurred after the Russian attack on the Ukraine have led to a situation where the supply chains have led to delays in the batteries reaching the health facilities where solarization is occurring in Guyana. So with that, let me end here, and if there are any other comments, I look forward to address them as well.
We actually have received one query to you through our chat box, which is from the permanent representative of Malawi again, whether these are samples of enabling policies and regulations on solar energy from any country.
Yes. So the first is solar mini-grids. This is exactly what we are working with Malawi, and we saw that there are 3 regulatory policy interventions which are essential to bring in capital for solar mini-grids. So this is something that is happening. We've also seen on the completely the other end of the spectrum for large-scale solar policies that have been put in place in Cuba to attract investments to the provision of sovereign guarantees in hard currency term payments for people who invest in these large projects. In middle, we have seen countries come up and install the kinds of risk mitigation finances that I spoke about. The European Union has started providing guarantees for when working with loans from, say, the European Investment Bank or the AFD and so on, which help therefore in providing the kind of risk management that is needed to draw in capital. So yes, there is a large amount of policy change that is occurring across the world.
Thank you so much for that. I see that we have Guyana back with us. Royston, over to you.
Good morning, dear colleagues. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can, Royston. Thank you.
Okay, just to come in here briefly to express my delegation's support for this initiative. As you know, Guyana has a low carbon development strategy 2030 that we're now finalizing. And solar energy is really a major component of that and what we want to do in achieving our energy transition. We rely heavily on the International Solar Alliance, we're a member, and of course, there are a number of initiatives that I know headquarters will be partnering with the Alliance to really incorporate into our low carbon development strategy 2030. So this is critical for us. This is critical for our long-term development. And of course, we want to express our appreciation to the Indian delegation, and of course, the EU. And you'll get our political support moving forward. So I thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think for now that was all the questions we had. We do realize that some of you have joined us on the live streaming platform, and I hope you're using the chat box system. For those who were trying to reach us on the chat box system, we haven't gotten any more questions on that. If there are, please feel free to continue writing that, and we will be responding to you. Well, in closing, now I would like to say that this has been a very exciting and engaging discussion, and I thank you all for that. Of course, our presenters, Ambassador Nicolas de Rivière from France, Ambassador Ilana Said from Palau. Our sincere gratitude goes out to the Director General of International Solar Alliance, Dr. Ajay Mathur. Thank you for being here with us, sir. The Secretary General, the UN Secretary General, Special Representative for Sustainable Energy for All, and the UN Co-Chair, Ms. Damilola Ogunbui. Thank you, although I understand that she's on a visit right now and still managed to join us here. Thank you so much for that. Of course, the head of EU delegation to the UN, Ambassador Olof Skog, and his team for co-hosting this event today. And to many other participants who have joined us online and on the live streaming platform. Thank you so much for all your support through this. And with this, we close the event today. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.